Welcome to a brand new podcast. Ian McLean is a writer and the author of TJ's War. David Blair is an actor and the narrator of the audiobook TJ's War. David and Ian have been listening to their readers and listeners and have decided to turn TJ's War into a movie. And since the story covers the entirety of World War II, the movie will cost at least $50 million. Will David and Ian succeed in their quest? Follow them in this podcast series. We're going to make a $50 million movie.
Hello, listener, and welcome to episode 3, we think, of our podcast. We're going to make a $50 million movie. And we are, David, aren't we?
Yes, Ian.
We are.
Yeah. Well, we're a week further towards it than we were last week.
Well, yes. And a day closer to the grave. So we're getting on really well, I think. I've got to update you on some stuff that's happened over the last week.
Sounds interesting.
Okay. So it's raining like, I don't know what here.
Yeah, I've just taken Jess out in this.
So if I'm not
Quite
here,
right.
it's because of the ridiculous noise on the windows at the moment, but hopefully it doesn't come through on the microphone. Yes, we've got some interesting stuff going on over the last week. My very good friend Mark Reed, who runs the Zen Sandwich podcast, and Zen's obvious, and sandwich is something apparently they say in America meaning sandwich when it's a really good sandwich. So he's been running this podcast for quite a long time. Some really, really interesting podcasts in there. And he's on board. He loves the idea. And in the middle of last week, he organized a call between him, me, and a wonderful woman called Sia, and I'm going to massacre her last name here, but I think it's pronounced Yasso Tornrat, and she's in Texas. So we had this call. For Mark, he's in Japan. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. For me, it was 9 o'clock at night, and for Sia, it was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And the idea was to have a look at the stuff that we've done so far and get some good ideas on how we mold it to get the largest possible audience as part of this drive to do to get this movie on the go. Now, Sia is a social media guru, and even in the first 5 minutes of talking to her, that became imminently obvious. So it was just fantastic. Lots of good ideas, lots of contacts, and she loves the idea of what we're trying to do. Who doesn't? So we're talking to Sia again on Thursday, more or less the same time, and you might want to be on that call. You might have got other stuff, but I think it'd be useful.
Yep.
One of the things she's got are some great contacts, including someone who's heavily into the movie making business in Oregon, who could be one of our first guests, a lady called Janice.
Very nice.
More about that when we're more positive about it. And I can't thank Mark enough for linking the two of us. And Mark's got some great ideas in that call as well. But Sia suggested layering these podcasts. So especially when we're doing interviews, we can be getting the feedback from other people who've tried and succeeded sometimes to make movies, and we can be interviewing them. But then over the top of that, on a second layer, we can be discussing that interview later in terms of what we've done along the same lines, either before or after that interview. Almost like a commentary on a film.
Okay.
And as soon as she said that, I thought, gosh, that sounds really interesting. That would, I think, enhance the podcast no end.
Sounds good.
Yeah. See, listener, viewer, you're getting David's reaction. He's never heard any of this before, so I think that's a positive reaction from David there. He's a very careful man.
Well, I'm thinking.
I can see that.
You can probably hear it. Yeah, I mean, I don't have that much to add to that. It's a great idea. I don't have any knowledge of this woman, but I'm thinking I want to listen to some of her podcasts and check her out and see what it's all about. So yeah, all good.
Should explain that David and I are nowhere close. He's a good 150 odd miles away. So when we get together for these podcasts, that's often as you can see, the first opportunity we've had to chat. We're just going to record everything pretty much and let you, good viewer, be with us on the journey. And if you've got good ideas, please feel free to send them through.
Yeah.
Contact
or if there's someone you think we should meet that might be useful to us.
Yes. Contact details should be down the bottom there somewhere. If my good friend Quinn here, look, I remembered his name properly this time, has done his job, which he does very well. I think it might be useful for. I've written the book, and in a future podcast, you'll see David interviewing me. I hate looking at myself on the video, but anyway, I hope you find that interesting. It might be useful if we take some time to hear about David. Might this be a good time to interview you?
Yes. There's two things, I think, isn't there? There's that, and there's also a sit rep, if you like, for where we are now, what our kind of ground zero is. Have we covered that?
To an extent, but it could be very useful to recap and probably add to it.
Yeah. So I think what might increase the stakes somewhat is to outline what we have and what we don't have. And what we have is a cracking story. We have authenticity because it's your dad. We have a few sort of irons in the fire, as in I'm an actor and I'm a voice actor, so hence me doing the audio version, and a lot of will to see this done, which is worth a lot. Now on to the potentially slightly longer list in terms of what we don't have. Now,
no. Let's keep going with what we do have.
Yeah. Okay, there's more. Okay, yeah.
So,
oh fuck! I've just switched the bloody switch off. Are we good? Are we still on?
We're still.
Thank God for laptops. I just kicked the by mistake. And turned everything off.
You were there, and all of a sudden you just weren't. It wasn't as if you dived below the table. You actually disappeared just like that. It was quite funny.
My goodness. Right, that was a heart in the mouth moment.
So what else we've got is at one stage not so long ago we decided perhaps to we'll market it as a TV series. So we have broken the story up into between 6 and 8 episodes, of which we've written scripts for episodes 1 and 2. Now the scripts are a professional screenwriter will come along and massively change this, but it's easier to change something than change nothing. So we've produced those. We've produced, I can't think what it's called, a deck. Yeah. Which gives an idea of the feel of the story in terms of its time period, and the types of arcs of story that are going on, and indeed an idea of some of the main characters in the story. There are lots of characters in the story, but there are clearly there's the protagonist, but some of the other characters are very close in terms of time on screen or impact to the protagonist, and so there's a lot of real characters in this story.
And and it also gives an indication as to the feel of the show and what we think that might be.
Yeah. Well, there's the website, of course, tjswar.com, and on there are coming up for hundreds of clips from both the audiobook and from other aspects of the story, because the story is true. And so because it's true, there are lots of stories associated with it. For example, when TJ was being rescued from Norway, not in the book is the fact that the rescue from Norway in late April 1940 was only possible by the Royal Navy due to a miraculous fog that came over the coast of Norway at the time that the soldiers were trying to get back off the beaches onto Royal Navy ships and got the hell out of Norway. The fog was so strong that the German bombers that would have quite easily annihilated all those ships just couldn't fly. So if you believe in God, he was definitely on the British side on that one. It could have been much worse than Dunkirk.
Yeah, there you realize that despite all the planning and everything else, there was so much luck involved with things like this.
Yeah,
and for everything that went sort of well in inverted commas, there were countless others where people had bad luck.
Exactly,
just didn't go with them. So yeah, we've got the website, lots of stories. We're starting to build momentum. We've got interesting people involved. I think it's important to talk about what we don't have, because I think that sets the scene for the listener/viewer. Because it's relevant that we're not producers. It's relevant that people study producing for years and decades, and it's a proper job, and we're sort of cowboying our way in from the side. Which is a way to do it. Don't get me wrong. But we're learning on the hoof.
I think cowboying's a bit strong. Too really.
So yeah, that
I think that's not fair. I think if we were cowboys, we would pretend to be producers.
No. I don't mean
we're not pretending to be producers. We are.
I don't mean
we're very clear about what we can't do. We're very clear about what we don't know. What did Rumsfeld say? We know.
Yeah. There are known knowns. There are known unknowns. There are, and yeah, all the other derivatives.
And the thing is that we know what we don't know, I think. And we're not trying to pretend we do.
Yeah. I think we're also probably unaware of what we don't know. There's going to be huge amounts of stuff that come up that we think, oh, okay.
Oh, well, that's true too. I think, yes.
Didn't realize we needed to know that.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair.
Yeah. So
I don't think we're cowboys.
No, I don't mean that we are.
Unless we're in Texas or places like that, where cowboy is a very, very honorable profession to have, but that's not what we mean here.
No. Yes, perhaps in the words of Rumsfeld, I misspoke.
There's lots of that going on today, apparently.
Yeah. But I think it makes it more exciting. I mean, it wouldn't be the what the hell are these guys doing if we were producers and we'd done this before and we knew what we were doing. It wouldn't. Where's the jeopardy in that? So I think the more the listener viewer understands where we're coming from and what you and I can and can't do, the more compelling it might be.
Yep.
All right. So that's kind of little bit of potted bringing people up to speed on where we are, what we're doing.
We can say more. We are not endowed with great riches.
I wondered where you were going with that one. Steady, young man.
The only time I'll use that phrase. So we're not poor, and there has been some investment, obviously, to make the audiobook and stuff like that. There has been some investment, but it's been very much a small budget, and obviously to achieve what we want to achieve, the funds just can't come from us. It's got to be from, I don't know, crowdfunding is maybe a possibility too, but otherwise it's got to be from some large organization.
I think there's a thing called seed funding. People will tell us, which gets you to the funding point. So you're talking tens of thousands just to perhaps, get a writer involved or get the first stage people involved before you even think about proper major funding.
Yeah. So yeah. We are going to have not so much a break, but you will notice a break in the video as we lose time on this one and have to start again. But don't worry about it.
Mm.
My good friend Quinn will sort that out. Let's talk about you. Because apart from being when you said you're an actor and voice actor, it almost sounded like you're being more specific about your role, but that's not the case. You are a very fine actor and a very fine voice actor, and
Checks in the post.
many years doing that. So let's have a chat about that. How did you get involved in any of this in the first place? How did David Blair become an actor?
I feel like I need a cigar and a brandy for this. Well, it all started when I was the cliche of the kid that always acted, and I did all the plays at school and never really wanted to do anything else, if I'm honest. My mum is she doesn't perform now, but she was more a singer than an actor. But she did sort of light opera and Gilbert and Sullivan, that kind of stuff. So I think it was in the genes. Yeah, I did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory at primary school when I was, I don't know, 8 or 10, something like that, and played Mrs. Gloop, and didn't really think much of it before the actual performance. But then once standing on stage, and you get the odd a little laugh or whatever, but people are sort of focused and listening and kind of receiving what you're doing. Never looked back, really. Absolutely loved it. And I remember being, well, starstruck, I suppose, in the car on the way home, and just thinking, wow, what on earth was that? Well, I want more of that. And yeah, just kind of did all the plays at school, everything that I could possibly do. At that point, you couldn't do, well, at least at the school I was at, that you couldn't do drama A level, but I think I probably would have if I could. Did music A level, and followed in Rupert Everett's footsteps.
Why him?
Because we went to the same school, so that's why I mentioned him. And there's another famous actor, I can't remember his name now, but younger than him, who went to Ampleforth as well, because that's where it was. Yeah, and then went to Guildhall, and the rest sort of extrapolated from there.
Guildhall, tell me about that, because people watching this from outside the UK might not have heard of Guildhall.
So to give it its full title, it's the Guildhall School of Music and Drama, and there are essentially 3 schools within. There is the School of Music, the School of Drama, and the School of the Technical Theatre, the backstage side of things, and they're ostensibly separate, but they're all, or at least they were all, in the same building when I was there. Yeah, so it's sort of one of, the RADA, Lambda, Central. It's one of those, and you go there. It was a 3-year course. It became a degree course while I was there, because they were trying to, without it having degree status, it was basically a posh finishing school for those that could afford it. So they decided to give it degree status, so that in those days degrees were paid for by the government. Remember that, kids? Now you have to pay the whole lot back. But yeah. So yeah, you do your 3 years of training, and then come out a shadow of your former self. And this was around the era of Ewan McGregor, Joe Fiennes, Damian Lewis, Dom West, that kind of actor.
Were they all going through at the same time as you? All going through Guildhall?
Dom West was in my year. The other guys were around. There's loads of others as well. Hayley Atwell. I can't think of any others at the moment, but it's done all right for its fair share of notable alumni.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was fantastic training. Very good.
And
Full time.
how easy was it to get work after you graduated?
Moderate. I don't know whether they still do it, but they had this rather ghastly stomach clenching, nerve-wracking process in year 3, so that you have 2 years of full-time training where you don't do anything public. You have little showcases and stuff where you show the other teachers and tutors what you've been working on in their class in that term, but there's nothing public. Nobody can come and see anything, deliberately so that you don't feel like you have to put on a performance. You can just sort of learn without fear of needing to perform. And then in the 3rd year, the teaching pretty much stops, and they have their own teachers and visiting tutors come in and just direct shows. And that's all you do in the 3rd year. And as part of this show thing, this 3rd year, there's a thing called the Agents Showcase, and you had to prepare 1 or 2 speeches, 3, 4, 5 minutes long, and everyone would troop out and do their speeches for the assembled agents. And there was a lot of pressure to feel like you had to get an agent, bag an agent by the end of this night. It was just one night, a couple of hours long in the 3rd year. And then, as if that wasn't bad enough, there was this, you were invited to go out into the foyer of the theatre after the showcase and mingle, and the agents would hang around, and there was always a little kind of cluster around the very charismatic, successful students, and there were others. It was a bit like a school disco, that was sort of clinging to the railings around the side.
So it sounds more like that selection process that they have for American football players, where they the coaches buy the best and bid for them as well. Yeah,
it was a bit like that. And most, I think I'm right in saying, don't come away with an agent from that. So Dom did very well. Yeah, but that was the somewhat brutal experience of showcase evening. I managed to get an agent, so I was one of the lucky ones. Dennis Line, God bless him, formerly of Hope and Line. He was a lovely bloke, real old school. Did everything right. So he was a very good training, and yeah, kind of did okay. Did quite a lot of TV, quite a lot of theatre. Had a pretty good 10 years out the blocks. Lots and lots of waiting jobs, bar work in between, as you'd expect.
Yeah, but list off some of the TV stuff.
Oh goodness. Heartbeat, Dylan Pascoe, Touch of Frost, Casualty, A&E, Shipman drama thing.
Yeah. You'd have been quite good with that beard as a protagonist.
Oh no, this was pre. I only really had the beard from 30s onwards, 40s onwards. That was Jimmy Bolam as James Bolam.
The Likely Lads.
Yeah, he played Shipman.
Hey.
Yeah, he taught me how to do crosswords. It was a lovely bloke. Yeah, very unassuming.